This story is based on true events. It happened to me when I was running a restaurant business. I had found what seemed like the perfect location for my business. The property was in a posh neighborhood with a massive garden, plenty of parking space, and an old 2-story house that I planned to renovate. Everything was going smoothly. The planning, the setup, the renovations. But then, strange things began to happen. One night, the security guard who was watching over the place told me something unsettling. He said he had been experiencing paranormal activity for several nights. I was taken aback, confused, and assumed that it was just his imagination. But then he explained. He had heard a woman humming late at night, soft footsteps echoing across the empty house. At times, he heard a faint, almost polite knock at the door. But on other nights, the sound turned into violent, thunderous bangs, like something or someone was desperately trying to force its way inside. Yet whenever he checked, no one was there. The fear in his eyes was real. The most terrifying night came when the security guard, during his usual routine check before locking up, he did what he always did. He checked the toilets, turned off the lights, and locked the door. Everything seemed fine. But as he walked away, the silence of the empty building was broken by the faint creak of the door swinging open. At first, he thought it was his mistake. He went back, locked it again, this time pulling the handle twice just to be sure. The lock clicked firmly into place. But the moment he took a few steps forward, a loud thud echoed through the corridor. He froze. Slowly he turned, and the door was wide open once more. That's when the air grew heavy and unnaturally cold, his breath almost visible in the dim light. Then came the sound, a soft, eerie hum of a woman's voice, floating through the silence. Heart pounding, he forced himself to look inside. What he saw made his blood run cold. For just a second, a shadowy figure with long, tangled hair stood in front of the mirror. But it wasn't standing at all. The ghostly figure had had no legs. Its body hovered inches above the ground as if suspended in air, while its head was tilted towards the right side. And then, the figure started to turn. The moment its face started to shift towards him, he felt his entire body lock with terror. Somehow he broke free and ran straight out of the house. That night he called me, his voice shaking, and told me he was done. He couldn't spend another minute in that place. After the incident, I decided to figure out the truth of the place. I began by asking the neighbors and the previous tenants. And to my surprise, they too claimed the house was haunted. So I decided to dig deeper into its past. The truth was horrifying. The house was nearly 50 years old, and over time, many families and businesses had rented it. But one tenant in the late 90s stood out. It had once been a rehabilitation center for women struggling with drug addiction. Back then, regulations were weak, and there were rumors that the center used inhumane methods to discipline the patients. Sometimes the girls were denied food for an entire day. Other times they were beaten mercilessly or forced into exhausting physical labor. And in the darkest accounts, some even suffered sexual abuse. Among the victims was a young girl named Julie. She wasn't a heavy drug user, just a recreational one. But her parents, desperate to fix her, sent her to the rehabilitation center. Julie was different from others, outspoken, unwilling to suffer in silence. Because of this, she was punished more severely than the rest. Her breaking point came when she was violated by the very people who were meant to help her recover. Desperate, she confided in her parents, begging them to take her home. But they dismissed her cries as lies, thinking she was only trying escape treatment. Julie, however, was determined. She had no intention of spending another moment in that place. Summoning all her courage, she ran away. But the people who ran the organization were powerful, with strong political connection. By the very next day, Julie was dragged back with the help of the local police. From then on, her torment only worsened. The punishments grew harsher, the humiliation unbearable. Broken in body and spirit, Julie finally gave up. One night she ended her suffering by hanging herself in one of the rooms of the old house. From then on, every person who stayed in that house reported the same things. The soft hum of a female voice, the chiming of bangles in the silence, knocks on doors, sometimes gentle, sometimes violent. One night I decided to test it for myself. I stayed late after everyone had gone home. At around 1 a.m., I woke up on the couch to a sudden gust of cold air from a wall where there were no windows. Then came the humming. Heart racing, I climbed the dark staircase to the first floor. The hall was empty. The toilet seemed quiet, until I stepped inside. As I washed my hands, I heard a whisper right behind me. I froze. Then, a loud thud. The water sprayed upward, splashing my face. Terrified, I bolted out of the house, jumped on my bike, and rode home without looking back. But the story doesn't end there. Although I didn't want to continue my business in such a place, I had no choice as the contract was already signed. For the first 2 months, business was booming, and everything was running smoothly. No more sightings. It was as if the ghost decided to leave. I was happy. But then things changed. Appliances started breaking down. Items disappeared. Staff began whispering about strange sightings. Some even claimed they had seen the ghost. Desperate, I called a shaman. He walked through the property, chanting, until he stopped at the storeroom and the upstairs toilet. "This is where the negative energy is strongest," he said. He performed a ritual, lighting fire, chanting mantras, and occasionally throwing red powder to ward off evil spirits. The atmosphere grew heavy. When he finished, he pulled me aside. His face was pale. He told me that the spirit of a girl was trapped here, the same girl who had suffered and taken her life. She wasn't trying to harm anyone, but her pain was so deep, so raw, that it poured onto everyone who entered. His final words chilled me. "There is nothing I or anyone else can do here. The best thing you can do is leave this place." This came as a shock, as I hadn't told the shaman what had happened on the place. But everything he said made sense. Although I wanted to quit running the restaurant there and shift it elsewhere, I was bound by a contract. Leaving meant paying a heavy penalty, something I simply couldn't afford. For a year, I ran the restaurant. My staff shared terrifying stories. One man even resigned after being held down by something invisible on the same couch I had slept on. Eventually, I sold the business, warning the new owner of the house's dark past. He shrugged it off, saying he didn't believe in ghosts. Even today, when I pass by the place, a chill runs down my spine. And I hear that the new owner, too, has begun experiencing things he cannot explain. This is not just a story. This is a chapter of my life, and it will haunt me forever. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real ghost stories and haunted tales. Until next time, stay safe and don't look behind you.